possible anymore. And so I'm not going to put him on it. I still think he's a good coach. And I would say this, he just has to figure out how to live in this era. It's not necessarily, I know some people want to say, well, you can't pay players like you were anymore because everybody else is. That is part of the problem, where we know that KU had some advantages in that regard during, the FBI investigation, how that all came out with what they were trying to do. But this is more about roster construction. Bill Self's essentially let DeJuan Harris and Hunter Dickinson for the last 2 years hijack his team. And I don't mean that in like a negative personal way for those guys, but it's just their skill set and what they do doesn't really provide a high ceiling for a team with those two guys alone. They need everybody else around them to be of a certain level and have certain skills, and they just don't have that on this team. And again, that's where it comes into the factor of other schools have the ability with NIL and other things right now to bring in guys. So it's not as easy for KU, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina to kind of flex their muscles and be like, yeah, we're the big bad blue bloods. Like, you're going to come here because we've got the most to offer for you. Now a lot of other places can offer quite a bit to these guys. So I think that's part of the problem. He's just going to have to get back to learning how to put together a better roster. And he's done that at times too. Like, some of the guys that turned into great players for him weren't these big-time top 20 recruits like Ochai Agbaji and Christian Brown. They weren't the best of the best in their recruiting classes. He found them, he developed them, they turned into great players. He's just going to have to get back to doing that. But also, Darren Peterson's going to be great for him next year. So he's still going to get the guys at the top of the line. He's just got to do a lot better elsewhere. And that's why for most of the season, I've said to Drew Galloway on plenty of shows that we've done, I thought KU was just the high-end version of K-State. They're both greatly flawed teams that have guys that play a certain way, and they just can't get to the ceiling that people want them to. And what we've seen now is K-State's playing better basketball over the last month than KU is. I mean, K-State's losses in Utah, they look better than what KU had. So we're seeing it play out right now.
We'll talk more basketball, K-State basketball in our next segment, but I did want to get to what I teased about earlier in the show, and I just want to, I need a brain to pick before I kind of go nuclear coming up at 5:10, because I do have a lot to say about what we're seeing now take place with college football, and this has been a development over the last 10 months of basically the other conferences in Notre Dame giving all the power for the college football playoff to the SEC and Big Ten because they're threatening to go do their own thing and nobody wanted to call their bluff. And now it's T-minus days from this whole thing going into effect to the college football playoff being 4 automatic bids for the Big Ten and SEC. I don't know how much on the KSO show you guys talk about the politics of college sports outside of the true NIL discussion. But in your opinion, is college football about to be ruined?
Yeah, I think people have for a long time been pretty negligent to what actually makes college football go and what makes it important. And I know that the big boys are going to look at it and be like, well, ratings weren't, they weren't down. They're doing just fine in all these areas, or people are still watching games. I can guarantee you, I have always said that if you give people like K-State fans or Oklahoma State fans or Louisville fans or whoever that isn't in the Big Ten or SEC, if you give them a reason to even think that they aren't competing for the same crown, even though we know those teams will never win a national championship in football ever again, unless something wild happens and some really rich person comes in and says, I'm going to fund you for the next 4 years like one of the top programs in the country. It's not going to happen. But the illusion of it is great, and there's still so many great things that you can accomplish there. And I'm the kind of person that what I view outside of K-State is based on how does it impact K-State. So why would I need to watch Alabama and Texas anymore when they have no bearing on anything that would happen with K-State? If this thing got so ruined to where it seems like they want to push this thing, because I really think that's where the ultimate goal is. They haven't stopped messing with conferences. They haven't stopped messing with the playoff format. It'll get to a point where K-State And Alabama, they're not even in the same type of sport, and it will be this super league that people want. And that's where they will finally realize that will break the viewership, and that will break college football for good until they realize they have to revert back. And it's like so many things. Like, I think about growing up, how my dad would always point out, like, oh, well, that's what was fashionable 20, 30 years ago when I was growing up. He's like, everything's a cycle. Everything comes back around. And I truly believe that we will get to a breaking point in a lot of different things in college athletics to where 30, 40 years from now, we're back to this thing. Now, not financially speaking, in terms of how much money's coming into it, but I think this thing could get back to the point where it gets so broken, it has to be fixed to where things might look like they did 40 years ago or whatever it may be. That's a long process to play out, but I think that's kind of the doomsday scenario that can be painted because of ignorance of these people that think they have all the power right now.
I just want to throw out a weird hypothetical just to see if you have a reaction to it. Of course, it would never, I would imagine, would never be this way, and it's not even close to being the same situation, but like in baseball, you're a huge baseball fan, and nobody's more traditionalist than baseball, right? So what if it was like the American League East and the National League West is like, look, we got these teams that are always in the World Series or whatever. We got the winningest teams. We draw the most eyeballs. Look, now we want 2 automatic spots in the MLB playoffs for the Yankees and Red Sox and for the Dodgers and Giants. What would that do to the sport?
I mean, they might get away with it because there you have all of the markets, I guess, bought into that. But even then, I think you'd still see a decline in how that operates because, I mean, again, I would not care. I think about, like, if I was a North Dakota State fan, back to football on this, I don't know how much Power 5 football I would watch during a weekend. I'd probably be bouncing around ESPN Plus looking for all the other Missouri Valley games and trying to follow along with that. You know, I might catch a big one of some other kind from time to time. Like, you know, I've watched a Mountain West football game before, but I don't really care about Mountain West football. I think if you did that with baseball, it'd be the same type of result where you'd have a good chunk of people be like, this is stupid. It makes no sense. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm going to worry about my thing.
Yeah. 5'10", I'm going to get into all the details and give my 2 cents about the future of college football. What this, I mean, especially for the Big 12 and what, you know, the task Brett Yormark now has here in a few days of meeting with the College Football Playoff Committee or the governing body. I forget what they officially call it, but he's going to have to make a huge pitch. But does he have any power at all? Probably not, but he's going to have to try to go in there and try to convince some people that what the SEC and the Big 12 or the Big 10 want to do is not what is right for college football. We take a break. Mason Voth from K-State Online is joining us. We get into K-State men's basketball. What happened? What was the main issue for K-State going 0-2 in Utah? Does K-State still have a slim shot of making it to the NCAA tournament? We'll discuss with Mason next.
Miss part of the show?
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Really? Check it out on demand at 1350kman.com. You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.
The Trust Company is an independent, locally owned wealth management and investment company founded right here in Manhattan in 1992. The experienced professionals at the Trust Company are recruited specifically for their financial, legal, accounting, and business expertise. They're also your neighbors who, guided by your hopes and dreams, will continue to deeply understand your aspirations and goals. The Trust Company, locally owned, client-focused. Our only allegiance is to you. Visit thetrustco.com.
At McCown Gordon Construction, we improve lives by building authentic relationships. No matter the project size, our clients enjoy unmatched talent and resources in the Manhattan area market. Early collaboration with our pre-construction team ensures cost certainty, preventing surprises. Whether it's space for public safety or community gathering, we build to serve the community. McCown Gordon Construction, proud builder for K-State and the KSU Foundation. Visit McCownGordon.com.
The 9th Annual Corporate Pinewood Derby returns Saturday, March 8th, 7 p.m. at Max Motors on Highway 24.
Remember when you raced the Pinewood Derby? It's a fantastic adult team building event with a variety of sponsorship availabilities to race. If you want to just join us on the fun, $30 per person or $50 per couple. This includes refreshments and the live and silent auction. Come to the event for racing fun while supporting Scouting America Kansa District. For more information, go to mymhk.com on the 9th Annual Corporate Pinewood Derby, Saturday, March 8th, 7 p.m. at Max Motors on East Highway 24. Support Scouting America Kansa District.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through, or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
The Native community is big for me. Makes me feel good to pass on our Arapaho traditions. My kids love going up to the Sundance. I like to tell people the Sundance is about family. It's about the tribe. It's not just about the dancer. It's kind of like life. As a Sundancer, I'm just one spoke in the wheel. I need my family there. I need my role models. I need my people there, especially my children. You know, coming in that door, my family is ready to see me and they believe in me. Before, I'd never seen that from my people. But now when I walk in that door and I see those smiling faces and they're happy to see me, that's special. With my 4 kids, all I ask for them in Arapaho ways is health and happiness. Nothing more, nothing less.
Never stop being a dad. That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The Ramsey Show.
The problem is the stupid banks will loan you so much money that they put you in bankruptcy because they don't have an off button. They'll just loan you money. Mm-hmm. You know, you can go get a credit card, you can go on a trip you can't afford, you can go down here and get a car. You know, there's actually people out there walking around that still think that if the bank will loan it to you, it means you can pay it. The same people that think if you have checks left in your checkbook, there must be money in the account. Mm-hmm. Same people.
Life and money advice. The Ramsey Show. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on News Radio KMAN.
I'm Cole Butchendorf with a game sports update. K-State's offense was up to the challenge, but the pitching staff was not, as the Wildcats fell to the 6th-ranked North Carolina 12-9. The game was the 5th in as many days for the Wildcats, who won just once on their opening weekend. The Batcats will head to Arlington, Texas to compete in the Amegy Bank College Baseball Series presented by Kubota starting Friday night. The Cats will meet 5th-ranked Arkansas in a rematch of last year's regional semifinals. Michigan and TCU are also in the field, with K-State playing them on consecutive days. Friday's coverage begins at 6:30 on News Radio KMAN. For the second straight season, K-State women's basketball head coach Jeff Mittie has been named as one of the 15 candidates for the 2025 Warner Ladder Naismith Women's Coach of the Year watch list. Mittie is the second K-State women's basketball head coach in the program's 57 seasons of action to earn consideration for Naismith Women's Coach of the Year honors, as Deb Patterson was a 3-time finalist for the honor in 02, 03, and 05. The Cleveland Cavaliers have agreed to a 10-day contract with Naquan Tomlin earlier this morning. Tomlin has averaged 25 points on 55% shooting and 39% from 3, as well as 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks in his last 5 games for the Cleveland Charge. Back to the game on News Radio, KMAN.
Cole, thank you for that game sports update. He mentioned the final score of the K-State baseball game yesterday, losing 12-9 to the North Carolina Tar Heels. Went back and watched a little bit of it. Talking to Brian Smoller about it. He came by the radio station earlier today. We were talking about it a little bit. Super tight strike zone, which nobody likes to see in college baseball. That will run up a score. And I guess there's a new rule this year. I wasn't really aware of this. Maybe I should have, but basically what it is a pitcher on the mound cannot come set until a batter makes eye contact with him when he's getting ready in the box. What North Carolina was doing yesterday was, the batter wasn't making contact for a while, and the pitch clock is running down until it's kind of late, and that really jammed K-State up on the mound yesterday, apparently is what took place. And Pete Hughes argued it a few times, and the wasn't going to do anything about it. So, yeah, rough day for K-State that had North Carolina on upset alert yesterday. But we're back with Mason Voth from K-State Online. Mason, real quick about baseball on the MLB front, the Royals front. What do you think about Cole Reagan signing that not necessarily an expansion, I guess, but it's like, keeping him, I don't know how to explain this, but anyway, he basically signed a 3-year deal. He's going to make more money and sticking with the Royals.
Yeah, I love it because it's forward thinking by the Royals to make sure that they put themselves in a position where they think Cole Reagans is going to be really, really good. So you're going to be able to save some money, is their thought, by the time that Cole Reagans gets to the arbitration portion of his contract. So you don't have to go to an arbitration hearing and have it ruled against you and then tell you, actually, Cole Reagans is one of the top 5 pitchers in the American League, so he should be getting paid $10-15 million a year. So you get a little bit of a bargain there. And then on the other front for Cole Reagans, it's great because if he goes and gets hurt, he's had 2 Tommy John surgeries in the past, or if, this is flash in the pan, unfortunately, like my guy Brad Keller, then he's locked in some good money for himself. So it's good on all fronts.
We're still over a month away, of course, from opening day, but where would you preseason rank the Royals in the American League Central?
I think they should be top 2 again. It's going to be interesting because I was surprised that Cleveland was able to pull it off as well as they were last year. My pessimism for the Royals is going to keep me from saying that they win the Central, but I kind of think that they should, because I like a lot of the pitching this year, and the hope would be that Jonathan India can really help them offensively. And I'm really starting to hold out some hope that by the time the season gets to August, Jack Caglione might be ready to go and bolster the lineup too. Also, I'll say this on the K-State side of things. I think for a tight zone to affect K-State, that zone would have to include them not being able to hit batters, which, it already does, because the amount of guys that they hit with pitches is insane. So I understand why they'd be frustrated about a tight zone, because I'm not sure they can even hit a regular zone most of the time.
That's a fair point, because the bats haven't been too bad at all so far. If you add up the numbers, it really hasn't. But the fielding and pitching have been.
It's unfortunate that it's so unwatchable, because obviously I love baseball and I love K-State, but I say it time and time again, college baseball, it takes forever to play most of the time, and K-State does not do it in a very attractive way. I mean, K-State baseball is kind of like watching a Bruce Weber team, where they're going to do some really frustrating things, and even when it's going well, it's not like very pleasurable to the eye. So hopefully K-State gets it turned around, but it's incredible that they can't throw strikes. They commit all these errors, and they are the dumbest team in college baseball when it comes to the base paths and knowing what you need to do in the game. It blows me away. So hopefully they make it back to the NCAA tournament. Pete Hughes getting them to a super regional is a ringing endorsement for him. There should be no reason to try and force him out or anything like that for people to get upset about. But it would be nice if they could clean some things up, because they clearly have the talent, in my eye, to be better than they are. So,
well, Mason, K-State basketball goes 0 for 2 in the state of Utah. You put up an expert analysis on the KSO website. You watched the games like I did, and I think it's fair to say their brand of basketball wasn't too sexy for a lot of that road trip. What was your biggest, your top 1 or 2 biggest takeaways from that road trip for K-State, ending their 6-game winning streak?
The biggest thing that I come away from it with is that I'm really worried about Coleman Hawkins, because he didn't shoot it well against Arizona. And then showed up in Utah and did a lot of other things not very well, in addition to not being a real offensive threat. Like, I don't know if it's something's worn down throughout the season or if he's banged up, so there's some physical thing, or if it's mental because he shot so poor against Arizona. But I was really concerned by what I saw because he wasn't impactful in any way in the BYU game. And then he was impactful in the game against Utah, but to the detriment of K-State because he was slow on defense. He didn't react. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like on Sunday when he gets back out there, because that was the number one thing that concerned me. And then I don't think it was anything to worry about with David Gasson, but it kind of sucked for K-State that he chose to have his two worst games of the season up in Utah, and that really cost him. You need those two guys to play at a really high level like they had been, and unfortunately they didn't. It led to the loss. I think those were the two biggest issues for him.
Mason Voth from K-State Online is our guest. K-State with 5 games left in the regular season. The big topic, I guess, right now is, how much damage has K-State's already done themselves enough damage in the, for the 6-game losing streak and in non-conference play, yet they go on a 6-game winning streak and Joe Lunardi has them on the next 4 out. And I don't know how much I want to read into that. It's fun to talk about that K-State does still have that opportunity despite such a rough December and January. And now, K-State was still just two more losses, and they're right around 500 on the year and in Big 12 play that they still have, according to Joe Lunardi, for as much as you want to invest your time into his knowledge, still sees K-State as a bubble team. Right now, how are you forecasting K-State's chances to be an NCAA tournament team? Because for me right now, it's I think it's no doubt a win-out type of situation.
Yeah, they were already not great chances even with the 6-game win streak. And we had talked about they finished 5-2, they could do it. Well, they lose to BYU, didn't totally crush you. I thought 1-1 was probably the most likely outcome up there. You lose both of them though, and it's another loss to a team that I understand Utah's barely inside quad 1 range for K-State right now, but it's just another loss that the committee can look at and go, okay, so we're going to put this team in here that lost to Wichita State and Oklahoma State and Utah. Like, why would we do that? Why are they good? So I think there's still a chance for K-State. And I think the other thing that should probably encourage K-State fans, if you're still trying to hang on to hope for that, is that, they had Joe Lunardi on the broadcast before the game started Monday night, and he kind of talked like he still thought K-State could maybe handle 2 losses from the point that they were at. So I think, you could try and tell yourself if they go 4-1 and then, maybe they win 2 games in Kansas City, they give themselves a real chance. But I've been worried this whole time about what happens once K-State starts losing games again. Because I think in the middle of the year, yes, they were able to kind of pick themselves up, turn it around. But that was because they had a lot of season left in front of them. Now you get back, you get some hope again, and it is immediately dashed over the course of 3 days. So are they going to be willing to bounce back and still try to string this thing together, or does it kind of shut them down? So we'll see. All of the games left for them are winnable. The next 4 games that you play are against teams that I would not classify as good. And then you're going to come home and face Iowa State on the last day of the regular season. You can beat Iowa State and Bramlage. You did it last year. You beat them by 19 in their place this year. So it's possible, but K-State has to get some things in order. And I think it's more of a mindset thing for them moving forward to get back to winning than it is a talent thing.
Yeah, I agreed with you. I had the same suspicions about Coleman Hawkins, and K-State has work to do. There's no question. You got to make some noise in Kansas City. I'll ask you this, though, because I put this up as a poll, and you can answer it yourself here. At the Game KMAN on Twitter, who wins more games to finish the regular season, the K-State men or the KU men? K-State, no doubt, has the easier schedule down the stretch. What sucks here, and you mentioned it, what sucks for K-State is their next 3 games are most likely going to be quad 1s. They'll have 2 quad 1s into the regular season, and then maybe K-State actually hurts themselves a tad if they were to get a first-round bye, and that maybe leaves K-State without a winnable game, and they're going to have to play as a bubble team, you like those early games to build a resume a little bit, just depending on the matchup, of course. But K-State will have Arizona State at UCF, Colorado at home, at Cincinnati, Iowa State at home to finish out the regular season. KU is going to have Oklahoma State at Colorado. I would not put it past Colorado to win their first conference game against the Kansas Jayhawks on their home floor. Texas Tech at Houston, Arizona. Who wins more games down this final stretch of 5 games in the regular season, K-State or KU?
Well, I got bad news for you. Colorado beat UCF on Saturday.
So
they
I didn't even
they
see
did
that.
Get into the win column finally.
Good for them. Good for Tad Boyle.
I did think they were going to do it. But, yeah, well, the one that people should not be surprised if they lose is this Saturday against Oklahoma State, because I always like to point out that Bill Self, for some reason, really likes to lose to his alma mater. He's great against so many other teams in the Big 12. KU seems unbeatable. Just feels like he randomly loses a lot of games that he shouldn't to Oklahoma State, who's typically not that good. But I think they win their next 2, and then it really comes down to those next 3. It's beneficial for them that they're going to face Texas Tech and Arizona at home. 2 teams that are good teams, but not necessarily like world beaters. So you're going to have somewhat of an advantage playing them at home. But I think it might be K-State, because even though things did not go the way you want to in Utah, you think K-State should be able to win 2 games against Colorado and Arizona State at home, and then you really just have to win another one to at least match them. And those are going to be toss-up games against UCF, Iowa State, and Cincinnati. So I go K-State. I voted in the poll when I saw it. I thought it was a great question. I went K-State. It seems to me maybe the more reasonable outcome is that both teams end up going 3-2 or something.
Mason Voth, our guest. Mason, before we wrap up, we hear Elliot in the background. She's talking more than she ever has as she gets a little bit older. Does she have a favorite word yet?
Yeah, so for the longest time, it was kind of like, what's this or what's that? Just like these phrases that she heard us say a lot. I think definitely her favorite right now is either sit or hat. So she likes to walk up to places and start tapping it and say, sit, sit. And you kind of have to make sure that she's not throwing an H in there. But she's definitely asking to sit. And then hat. She wakes up every morning, taps her head going hat, hat. And she'll go and get her stocking cap that she's really into and try to put that on. So those are the 2 right now that we hear the most in our house.
We're crazy college athletic fans. We say a few words once in a while when we're not too thrilled about how our team is performing. Do you watch your language, or do you try to watch your language when your daughter's around and you're watching the Cats or anything?
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, some people might think that I'm a prude, but I can remember vividly having a conversation my freshman year at K-State with a bunch of different people on my floor. We were eating dinner, and we were sitting there, and I was amazed at hearing these people talk about how, like, freely their parents cussed when they were growing up. I was like, I never once heard one of my parents drop the F-bomb in front of me growing up. And people act like it was commonplace. So I'm not opposed to throwing a couple of colorful ones out there from time to time, but I try not to take it too overboard. It was hard Monday night, though, when Tony Padilla was doing his BS, which he was up to again last night in Tempe. He gave Bobby Hurley a technical. And then we were talking about Alec Bussey told me he gave out 5 technicals in the game on Saturday in Ames.
Jesus.
For Iowa State, and we already forget who they played up there. But, yeah, it was –
well, they played Cincinnati.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah. So he said that officiating crew gave out 5 technicals on Saturday.
That game was that crazy?
Tony Padilla's been on one.
Yes, he had. He did a game for K-State like early in conference play, or maybe it was even in non-con. I thought he did a really good job, and I was like, that's not Tony Padilla's MO. Usually he's our least favorite, but he's doing well. Yeah, he's in midseason form at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, that can get me occasionally when there's something that I think is egregious and I'm at home and I'm watching the game. And when I'm at home, I'm more in fan mode, so I can get pretty riled up and say some things. But
is he your least favorite college basketball ref?
He's definitely up there. I'm trying to think of who else might be in the mix right now for my least favorite. I think he probably is there, and maybe that's recency bias. I know in football, I don't know that he does it anymore, and I can't think of his name anymore either. But the ref that used to wear the glasses but was pretty like beefed up, I did not. Whenever he showed up, you knew that some stuff was going to go down that you didn't like. So I definitely have my refs that I know and I like and don't like. Doug Shermans is doing a great job right now. I just want to throw that out there.
Well, he does well when the games are in the Octagon Doom. He loves a good home whistle. He loves the crowd pop. He's that one ref that stands out to me the most about calling games well for the home fans.
Well, he's a guy that if he thinks something's the right call, he doesn't care about overstepping his squad mate there or whatever. He's going to overrule him and get the call right. So I appreciate that about Doug.
All right, Mason, I kept you long. I appreciate your time. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in Bramlage on Sunday.
All right, we'll see you.
That's Mason Voth. KSO Online. Check out the KSO show on YouTube. And while you're on YouTube, check out our show as well. We're live, guys. We're live streaming. Just search for News Radio KMAN. Hit that subscribe button so we can keep our jobs and get paid. And one more of the game coming up next as we discuss the Jayhawks imploding, and it's at the wrong time. And boy, was it wrong. It was horrible for KU last night. That's coming up next on the game.
Your home for K-State sports.
Magruder off in time, got it! And Kansas State stuns Baylor!
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Join the original influencers, influencing for over 60 years, and discover how you can turn your passion for media and sales into a rewarding career. Manhattan Broadcasting is looking for creative, hardworking individuals who have a passion for helping businesses grow through traditional and digital marketing platforms. Qualified candidates should be creative, great at building relationships, and most of all, success-driven. Apply now at the top-rated media company, Manhattan Broadcasting. Send your resume to jobs@manhattanbroadcasting.com. Our client success is your success.
Few people choose to go into a nursing home. However, many people feel more independent when they no longer have to rely on family and friends to take care of them. When that time comes, consider visiting the Leonardville Nursing Home. Their dedicated staff will provide your loved one with the dignity and respect they deserve, offering interesting activities and a home-like environment with private rooms available. Call them today at 293-5244. Leonardville Nursing Home. They care.
Hi, Grandma. I'm in trouble and I really need some money.
Of course I'll help. But first, what's the family code word?
Code word?
In 2023, Americans lost $9 billion to fraud. Safeguard your family by establishing a family code word, only known to family members, and verify that code word with the caller before taking any action. Sponsored by the Kansas Bankers Association, Office of the State Bank Commissioner, in cooperation with the Kansas Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The word father means a lot to me. Being that support system for them, and as a man, that's important in a child's life. I think men can be a little stubborn sometimes where they may want the help, they may not know how to ask. It's hard for a man to speak his emotions. Those tears, they mean something. In Arapaho way, tears are water and water is life. And when you shed those tears, that's love. That's real love. Sometimes as dads, I think we're too hard on ourselves. Life can come at you really quick and it can be really tough at times. But then you put that one foot in front of the other and you keep doing the right thing. Slowly that voice goes away, Arapaho way, you gotta pray for yourself as well as for everybody else, but never forget yourself.
Never stop being a dad. That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
There are many times I thought, I can't do this. I mean, what parent isn't worried about? What am I not doing right? What am I not doing enough? And then I realized, wait, that's being a parent.
Don't worry about being perfect. I've had around 3 other mother figures in my life, but only one of them has taught me how a mother loves.
The greatest reward for me is he makes me better every day.
I would tell a family considering adopting a teenager that teenager, whoever it is, needs you, and they need what you have to offer.
Taylor's giving me hope. He's our son, and that is what he will always be.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Get your morning started with KMAN's Morning News, weekdays at 6.
Thursday morning, we begin to look towards warmer conditions across the region. We'll get the details from Kansas Mesonet meteorologist Chip Redmond, plus all of the news and sports headlines that you need to get your day going.
KMAN's Morning News, weekday mornings, 6 to 9 on News Radio, KMAN.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. This afternoon, mostly sunny with a high near 8. Wind chill values between -1 and -6. Tonight, a low of around -12. Mostly clear skies. Tomorrow, sunny and a high near 13. Wind chill values between -1 and -11. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy and a low around -2. Friday, mostly sunny and a high near 22. Finishing up hour 1 of the game next.
Well, the Big 12 race on the men's side it's not that interesting right now. Houston is taking care of business. Some games are a little close. And like, what was the other night? What was it last night? Houston takes care of business against the Arizona State Sun Devils. Final scores last night. Houston wins by 15 on the road against Arizona State. Iowa State takes care of Colorado. TCU pulling off that upset against Texas Tech was actually pretty interesting. That was a 69-66 win. Tech was trying to make that comeback. They fall 3 points short. And how about TCU storming the court last night in an arena that Schollmeyer Arena, just not very storming the court friendly. And then BYU. If you thought it was bad, if you thought K-State's performance in Provo was rough to watch, wasn't fun, K-State just comes out of the gates there at the end, the start of the second half, does not perform well, and BYU builds the lead, and K-State, a valiant effort trying to come back, and they kind of salvage it in a way and lose by 15 after it was worse than that in the second half. If you ask KU fans, that was probably the most embarrassing performance in the Bill Self era. You're on the road. You feel like you're playing a team that you're superior to. You're the golden goose of the Big 12, and Brett Yormark probably not too thrilled about KU's plummeting here in the month of February, but that's exactly what KU is doing right now. They are done when it comes to the Big 12 race. They are 6 games back, and there are 5 games to go. KU is done when it comes to the Big 12 championship race. But Houston has a 2-game lead right now over Arizona. They have a 3-game lead over Iowa State, Texas Tech, and BYU would need an absolute collapse from Houston for their chance to win a Big 12 conference. Everybody else is done. KU has no shot of winning the Big 12 championship with 5 games to go. It was back in February at the beginning of December where KU had beaten, Michigan State now is a top 25 team. North Carolina at the time was in the top 10. And Duke, who's still good, number 11 at the time, KU had beaten all of them. They started 7-0. And since then, they've gone 11-9 in their last 20 games. And even sooner than that, KU has lost 5 of the last 8. And look, to me, it's not necessarily it's not an NIL problem for sure. I mean, at the snap of a finger, if Bill Self needs $100,000, he can go get $100,000. If he's in a recruiting battle and he needs some cash, he can go find that money real quick. It's not that issue. It's just, I think you could point the blame in the same direction as the issues that K-State have had, just more often. And I agreed with Mason that KU has some pretty major flaws. Hunter Dickinson just isn't that. I have to ask maybe Bill Self at the end of the year. He wouldn't answer that question, but just KU fans or KU media at the end of the year is like, all right, 2 years with Hunter Dickinson. Was this what you expected? I guess I would imagine the answer is absolutely not. I mean, we've seen it in 2 games, or 2.5 games, because also include that half that Dwan Harris got in foul trouble. When they don't have Dwan Harris, they stink. That is a bad basketball team. They can't figure it out. How do veterans like Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams and Zeke Mayo, how can they not figure it out without him on the floor? And then laziness on defense. They get kicked in the nuts in the first 6 minutes, and they don't recover. Like, at least K-State has now shown in the 6-game winning streak, and even in these losses, that they're at least going to somewhat respond to a really rough run by the opposition and try to make a game out of it. They tried to against BYU. They got within, 7 or 8 points, and then BYU goes on a run. But K-State played Utah, and they played BYU much better than KU did. And it is DEFCON 1 in Lawrence, Kansas right now. So I'm just kind of bringing up the point that things are changing in Lawrence, and KU fans are freaking out. Things are changing as in they're not winning, and they're imploding at the absolute wrong time. I mean, K-State's implosion was at the beginning of Big 12 play, and even sooner than that. It's at the second half of Big 12 play where KU cannot figure things out, and they are plummeting when it comes to their status as an NCAA, when it comes to seeding an NCAA tournament team, because 2 weeks ago they were a 2. And now I've seen bracketology where they're a 6. Would you rather have KU's problems? Probably. I don't know. At least there's some constellation entertainment out of K-State's right now, barely hanging on by a string bubble status.
You mentioned something in the intro to the show about them not being ranked, because unless they beat Oklahoma State by literally 100 points, I don't think they're not going to be ranked in the next AP poll. And it hasn't been too long ago. It was 2021.
Oh,
but
I wouldn't have guessed that.
But they've been ranked 310 out of the last 311 polls, going back to 2009. So they were out of the poll for 1 week. They won 3 games in that 1 week, entered it, didn't exit it. And they've been ranked ever since that game, which they lost against West Virginia. And then before that game, they were ranked from 2009 to 2021. And then the other thing I saw, I think it was on X the other day, was I don't know exactly what year Bill Self got to KU, 04, 05, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
He had only had 6 losses in Big 12 play twice between 2005 or 6 to 2022, and then or 2023, and then the last 2 seasons with 6, at least 6, equaling those 2 from the first 20-ish seasons. So it's definitely been a concerning trend, and you wonder how much of that is NIL, how much of it is just their roster construction, what it currently sits at. It's just interesting to see how they're going to build moving forward.
Yeah, I think 3 straight years they don't have depth. I should say their depth, like their bench play, is better than the previous 2 years, but it's still not enough. They've had quite a few misses out of the transfer portal. The Timberlake kid last year was a complete miss. He did not pan out, and I'm forgetting names, like an AJ Storr, the Wisconsin transfer.
For sure,
I would guess that's probably. I have to go look at numbers. That's probably also been a miss. For KU, and they have not had to go about the portal like K-State has had the last couple of years. They're the most experienced team in college basketball. The tone of college basketball today is experience is an extreme premium. That's what leads teams to runs to the Final Four, national championships, teams that retain players and have a ton of experience, and KU is that one exception right now to the rule. That this experience is right now not paying off. And if I were to kind of generalize how KU is playing right now, like they're on tilt. They're not executing. It seems like KU is absolutely rattled by how they're playing. Like, wide open shots, like Hunter Dickinson's numbers aren't up anymore. DeJuan Harris's numbers aren't up right now. They're not playing to the caliber of basketball these starters should be playing at. They seem pretty rattled. They're missing these wide open shots consistently. All right, we got to take a break. That's going to wrap it up for hour 1 of the game. Coming up next, why college football is being ruined and how the K-State women still win a Big 12 championship is hour 2 of the game, and that's next.
Can you help me access my work computer now that I'm working from home?
We can do that. Is it possible for you to troubleshoot my computer without me coming into your store? We can do that.
I'm getting messages that my password's been compromised by hackers.
We can.
And that I have malware installed.
We can.
I don't even go to the mall.
We can do all of that.
Fox Business Systems business level support. We can do that.
Call 776-1452 or stop by 531 Fort Riley Boulevard. WeBuildSolutions.com. The 2025 Flint Hills Pheasants and Quail Forever 21st Annual Banquet, presented by Tuttle Creek Outdoors, is Saturday, March 1st at 4:30 p.m. at Manhattan's National Guard Armory. Proceeds remain local and support the conservation of pheasant, quail, and other wildlife, along with area trap shooting teams. Sponsorships and tickets remain available. A silent and live auction, raffles, and a chance to win over 35 guns are a part of this event. For more info, call 785-477-0241 or check out the chapter's Facebook page. Flint Hills Area Pheasants Forever. Manhattan Broadcasting Company is an equal opportunity employer. In order to widely publicize our job opportunities and outreach programs and organizations that regularly distribute information to job seekers or refers candidates to employers, please contact us about our employment contact list to receive the most current information about station vacancies. For more information or to be added to the list, please contact Manhattan Broadcasting Company at 785-776-1350 or visit us at 2414 Casement Road in Manhattan, Kansas, or email front desk at 1350kman.com.
Within Reason with Mike Madsen on News Radio KMAN.
What in the world is entrepreneurial economic development? We'll find out Thursday with Steve Radley, Chief Executive Officer of Network Kansas.
Within Reason with Mike Madsen. Weekday mornings at 9 on News Radio KMAN. What? You want more? You got more. More of the game coming up next on News Radio KMAN, Manhattan.
Weather on News Radio KMAN is brought to you by Sunset Zoo. Memberships are a fun way to experience the zoo. Pick up your membership and enjoy the Sunset Zoo all year long.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. Right now, sunny skies and 9 degrees out, wind chill at -4. Tonight, mostly clear skies and a low around -12. Tomorrow, sunny with a high near 13. Those wind chill values between -1 and -11 with a calm wind. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy and a low around -2. Friday, mostly sunny skies and a high around 22 with a calm wind in the afternoon. Hour 2 of the game is next on News Radio KMAN.
What an appropriate song to bring us back into the game, because I feel like what's happening to college football with what's feels like inevitably will be happening to college football here in the next week or two, I'm going to feel stupefied from what's about to take place, stunned, because I hate what's happening to my favorite sport. And I think I'd feel the same way. It's hard to tell because, of course, I root for a Big 12 team, but even if I was a SEC or Big 10 fan, would I, respond positively to this news, especially if you really, truly love college football, or you're just a fan of your team and you love the self-interest of what's happening to the Big 10 and SEC. Still to come as well in our next segment after we take a break will be K-State's route on the women's basketball side to a Big 12 championship. It's simpler and it's not daunting. I think it's actually there is a super positive spin and opportunity for K-State to win a Big 12 championship, despite still now no longer being first place in the Big 12 with needing a little bit of help. I do like the way things can unfold for K-State. I'll explain why coming up a little bit later on in this second hour. We're live on YouTube. Search for News Radio KMA and hit that subscribe button and keep up with what's going on with the Cats with our show. And Mitch Fortner alongside Cole Dutchendorf, who's across the glass. So we do not have a camera on, but I hear that we're going to be getting one of those here very soon to make sure we got Cole on camera so you can see what he looks like and stuff.
There you go.
Okay, I know this news came out over the weekend, and this is actually something we've known about now for about 10 months. I have tried to, as much as possible, avoid this topic. I hate it so much. It's probably my least favorite thing to talk about. I'm not the biggest politics of sports type of guy. Love talking about the ins and outs of a game, the X's and O's, game in and game out, or preseason, postseason stuff. Love talking Cats football, basketball. But I love college football. It is when it comes to sports, it's my favorite thing in the world. Second would be college basketball, and then so on and so forth. I love college athletics more than the pros. And I know that's a minority thing. And pro sports are more popular than the college stuff. But that's how I feel, and I'm sure it's how a lot of us around here feel about college sports. We are a college town here in Manhattan. We have pride for Kansas State. We have pride towards the Big 12. It is our conference. We've been in this conference for a super long time. Things are changing. And it's not good news necessarily for the Big 10. It's not, or for the Big 12, not necessarily good news for the ACC. And I question, do we have power to try to stop it? I don't think we do. But here's what's going on. This has been obviously a talking point for the last 10 months. This was the latest report by Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. The discussion since 10 months ago has been the SEC and Big 12 want full control on the future of the college football playoff and what the landscape will look like starting in 2026 and for the next 6 years after this 2025 season. And they said, basically, if we don't get that opportunity, if we don't get those rights, we're going to go do our own thing and screw the rest of you. So, the 10 conferences and Notre Dame agreed. They signed a memorandum of understanding handing the two richest conferences in college athletics those rights. And now here's what they want to do. I'll try to keep this short and sweet because it is a long story. I'll try to keep it short here. They want to expand the college football playoff starting in 2026, the 2026 season through 2031 to 14 or 16 teams. But no matter the size of the expansion, they want more automatic qualifiers. And they want to expand this to where the SEC and Big Ten get 4 automatic qualifiers. The Big Ten or the Big 12 and ACC would get 2 each. Notre Dame would get a spot if they finish in the top 14. There would be an automatic spot for one Group of 5 program. And just by bringing that up, that pisses me off that we are now in this area. The greediest era of college athletics. They do not care about other sports. It's all about football. The SEC and Big Ten, we know that they're the top powers of college athletics. We don't need these automatic qualifiers to establish that, but to me, this is completely ruining what we love about college football. The integrity, the authenticity of college football, and it's completely lessening, in my opinion, especially for the Big Ten and SEC, what each week means in college football. They want full control. They want all the power, and they're taking that even a step further with what they're doing with their scheduling agreement is they're going to basically play. The SEC and Big Ten are just going to play each other for a non-conference game. The SEC is going to expand their in-season conference slate to 9 games, and they're basically completely trying to box out everybody else from the majority of revenue in college athletics, in college football. The college football playoff format, again, would last from 2026 through 2031. 14 or 16, it doesn't matter. They want 4 spots. Now, because of the SEC and Big Ten, they're meeting today. And from what I understand, the athletic directors of the Big 12 and the ACC are going to be meeting a little bit later on, or even this week. And then next week, everybody's meeting up to talk about what they're going to do. Now, according to this agreement, the Big 10, the Big 12, I keep saying the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, everybody else, they still get their say about what they want to do. And don't get me wrong, it's only the Big 10 and SEC that like what they want to do. It's all in complete self-interest. It's a hostile takeover is what this is. And I'm not going to get in the weeds on this, but I think a good analogy here is the Elon Musk, Donald Trump. People are calling it a hostile takeover of the government of what they want to do. There's even Republicans coming up and saying, like, I don't know if we necessarily want to go that far with a couple of the things. Again, I don't want to get in the weeds on that, but I think it's a fair thing to say because what feels like the SEC is losing their power, and it's what they were called as the leader that has drifted towards Tony Petitti and the Big Ten, like it is with Elon Musk, it feels like, compared to Donald Trump. And I don't want to piss anybody off by that analogy, but I've been told that's a fair analogy, so I decided to go along with that. Even the ESPN is not exactly thrilled about this. They don't like the idea, which they have invested so much money in the SEC. We had the SEC just shoved down our throats this college football season. They almost ran the entire slate of ABC games, and then Fox, of course. With games on Fridays, were the majority of the Big Ten. The Big Ten completely controlled the Big Noon kickoff. They're trying to get their return on investment. The ESPN is not a fan of alienating some of the country because they still obviously have deals with the Big 12. They have deals with the ACC for a long time. They're spending a lot of money on those conferences as well. But they also, they're not exciting about expansion for multiple reasons. They're going to have to compete more with the NFL. That's going to clog up, more of those opening round games. But what we just had this year was a lot of blowouts. And they didn't see the ratings that they were liking. And that's going to set up, especially if there's a 16-team playoff, you're going to have probably a 1 versus a 16, and they're just expecting a blowout, and the ratings aren't going to sustain. They saw a drop-off in ratings from this year's national championship compared to last year, and there's a huge, and I agree with this, I think there's going to be it's going to get stale of just the same programs, the SEC and the Big Ten controlling the college football playoff, a monopoly on the revenue of college football. It's going to hurt future TV deals for the other conferences, and it's just going to further continue building into the two super conferences with still the SEC and the Big Ten calling the shots. My question is, though, does Brett Yormark have any fight to sway these two conferences into doing something else? And I don't think there is. He has to do what's in the best interest for the Big 12, but with the SEC not needing a majority vote. The SEC and the Big Ten, who are just meeting alone right now, will have the full say on what's going to happen, but they still have to listen to the other conferences. They could easily just read a book the whole time while Brett Yormark is making a speech, and it's not going to really matter. They can just full on do what they want to do. So Brett Yormark has to get creative. How can he spin it to where this is completely unfair? It's ruining the integrity of what we love about college football. There's nothing organic about that anymore. It lessens the value of winning your games. It's way more NFL than it is anything else. Of 9 and 8 teams getting into the playoff, the value of winning your conference is going to significantly lessen. Because then the conferences have to figure out, all right, since we have more than one automatic qualifier, how do we figure this out? There is no more just easy 1 versus 2 conference championship game. Like, there is a proposal, there's an idea out there of the SEC trying to figure out who is going to be their 1 seed, their 2 seed. They're going to have a 1 versus 8. The 8th place team in the SEC is going to have an opportunity to play in the college football playoff. And in my opinion, that is completely stupid. Super dumb. Makes no sense in my opinion. But what they want is a guarantee. A guarantee like they didn't have this year of Alabama not getting into the college football playoff. They want the guarantee that they will for sure get those in. They'll get their 4 teams in, but on top of that, strength of schedule. They're playing, of course, 9 games in their own conference. They have guaranteed 1 game against the Big Ten. Obviously now, losses for ACC and Big 12 teams are going to hurt much more compared to the Big Ten and SEC. But with their strength of schedule, there's now a lot louder argument compared to anybody else that those at-large bids will also go to the Big Ten and SEC, which means, of course, a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to proceeds for playing postseason football. This is the worst thing in the world, I think, for college football. And I hope that there's enough evidence, as Brett Yormark is going to bring a lot of numbers and a lot of evidence and a lot of data to try to prove that this is the worst, this is not a good way to go, this is going to do more damage to college football. You can't be just so self-interested in greed, and especially what we're at in college football these days of NIL. You have a revenue share that's going to be starting in July, and everybody wants to get their bread. The Big Ten and SEC absolutely have all the power in the world to make sure that they get their bread.
You know, there was already a lot of the feeling of watered down just coming into even this last season. It felt like the CFP expansion was bound to happen. I mean, you could probably say that it was bound to happen as soon as the first CFP happened with 4 teams. You could make the logical, you connect the dots that eventually it's going to expand farther and there's going to be more teams.
Well, let me cut you out there for just a second. But why do we need 4 automatic qualifiers? The only reason is for them to guarantee their spots. This is no longer a playoff. This is an invitational to play in the college football playoff. It should never, I mean, think about it in any other sport and how chaotic that would be if there were more than 1 automatic qualifier for a particular conference or division. And it just, you know, there's no natural, organic run to a playoff or to a national championship anymore. I think this dampens what a national championship means. in college football by 4 automatic qualifiers.
And you already saw it this past year with, again, what I was going to say was the watering down of games. You look at, like, it wasn't an early season game, but it wasn't late in the season where Alabama and Georgia met. It was a classic college football game, but even after Alabama was able to come out on top, it just didn't feel the same as previous years because it didn't really matter. And in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter that Georgia lost that game. They ended up still getting a bye. Alabama was, at that point, I believe Alabama was still undefeated. They ended up not making the playoffs, but it diminished that regular season game. That did not feel like it mattered as much as it used to. As much as it was a 1 versus, I don't remember exactly what the seeds were at the time, but if you would have taken that same game and dropped it into the 2021 season, that game is the biggest game of the year. And instead, what it becomes is it's just another game on the schedule for Alabama or for Georgia. And that was last year with 12 teams. If it's expanded further, that becomes even worse. So where, that game, yes, it's cool and all. It's like, yeah, it's 2 top 5 teams throwing down. It almost matters nothing in the grand scheme of things because you're going to have a conference that has 4 teams guaranteed to be in it. I'm completely on your side. We've already seen what a watered down product it's become, and that's with 12 teams in the first year. I think there's ways to fix that, and the ways to fix that is not by adding more teams to the puzzle. I can't see this going well, with the bird's eye view, trying to look at it 10, 15 years down the line. Can't see it panning out very well for college football as a whole, but obviously specifically Big 12 and ACC, but also I think for every school. And also, one thing you mentioned very briefly was it's not college sports are not just football. Obviously, that is a huge. It's a lion's share of the profit and the money in the revenue with college athletics. But you look at how alignment in general, and so much of that was spearheaded by the Big Ten and the SEC, where you have teams like USC and UCLA in the Big Ten with these insane traveling, with your lacrosse teams traveling now 30,000, 50,000 miles in a season via plane to get to these Big Ten opponents. It's a lot. Football is extremely important, and it's the most important thing in college athletics, but it's not the only thing. And I think that's also maybe gotten a little bit lost in the shuffle. Is it's not just impacting the football players, coaches, staff, etc. It's impacting a ton of college athletes outside of just the gridiron.
To be honest with you, though, as well, deep down, even though it's still sickening to me how far the SEC and Big Ten want to take it, I don't blame them. Because they know how much power they have. Conference realignment, it changed the game. This last round we had with the SEC adding Texas and Oklahoma, that kind of ripped some soul out of the Big 12. And then, the Big 10 being so, obviously not the killer, but, they knew the Pac-12 was a wounded duck and they could benefit off of this by adding at a discount rate, Oregon, Washington, USC and UCLA to the equation that, they know what they got. At least they think they know what they have. That's why I'm thinking, can Brett Yormark, I forget the ACC's commissioner right now, but can they put together a presentation with data because they have to be the voice along with Notre Dame. I don't know how Notre Dame honestly feels about this, but they got to be convincing. And I don't know, even if they are convincing, even if they put together the best argument in the world as to why this is just absolutely stupid, I don't know if that moves the needle or not for the SEC and the Big Ten. I doubt it, because I would definitely bet that they have what they need to counter argue, what Brett Yormark and what the ACC would bring to the table. They can bring up viewership, they can bring up ratings. Social media engagement, which actually, and to be fair about that, when it comes to social media engagement and interest in the college football playoff, other than Ohio State winning the national championship in that game alone, the most talked about game was probably, I'll have to ask you, what do you think the most talked about game was? To me, there was no doubt about it. The most interesting game of the college football playoff was Texas and Arizona State.
That's what I was going to say,
and Arizona State making that comeback, and it made people finally tune in and be interested for a fourth quarter of the college football playoff. Before that, it wasn't going so well. The ratings were not where ESPN was hoping it would be that first round. And now the SEC and Big Ten want to flood that first round with a bunch of rematches. That can't be too appetizing if you're ESPN.
Well, that was one of the biggest takeaways for me is if the ESPN, which has poured so many resources into college football and the SEC specifically, if even they're like a little bit hesitant for what's going on, that's got to be a huge red flag that this is not going to be a great thing at the end of the day.
Well, let's add on to this as well. If they do expand to 14, that is actually no additional revenue. There's no negotiations about changing things on the ESPN part of things and spending more money on the college football player, more than they already are. If they do expand to 16, there is a negotiation that will go down, and most likely ESPN is going to have to pay a lot more money for what's going to be most likely a watered-down first round of the college football playoff where there's just going to be a lot more blowouts, and it's not going to be the impact like the NCAA tournament for basketball is, where, I mean, you could argue, when it comes to just the generic fan, there's actually a super ton of interest in those first and second rounds because that's where the chaos takes place. That's where you see the 14 seed beat the 3, or like we've seen in 2 of the last 5-6 years, the 16 seed beat a 1. And that to me is where you're not going to have those kind of upsets in the college football playoff. We already know that. And even with the way the divisions are set up, that's impossible to even put together unless something crazy was to happen. And we finally get to that 128 college football playoff. Everybody gets in, and we'll see what happens. But what college football does have that college basketball does not is the regular season interest. And you're going to water that down. You're going to lessen the importance of game in and game out, what it means to be a college football team, and what every week means for the opportunity to play for a national championship. It already did that slightly with the invention of the college football playoff, but the further you expand, and if you're going to monopolize this thing, if you're the SEC and the Big Ten, you're going to lessen, in my opinion, you're going to lessen the interest of postseason football for college football when the best ratings are coming in. And they're going to see it down the line that the interest is going to go down, even though the power is basically switching over to the Big Ten.
Well, and not only the postseason, but also regular season too. When you de-emphasize the importance of the games, again,
game in and game out. Yeah,
you already saw it last year. You're going to see it if it's expanded more. You're going to see, I think, less interest in the regular season because a loss, ho hum, it's whatever. It's one loss. We can still. There's 4 guaranteed spots. Even 2, even 3 losses. You're like, there's still a chance we're going to get into the college football playoff. Whereas even before the 12-team playoff, it's like, I mean, you lose 1, maybe you have a little bit of runway, but you have to basically have 1 win or less to get into the CFP.
Yeah, it's funny. There's in college basketball, there's actually more interest in looking up bracketology and seeing who those bubble teams are than actually watching the bubble teams play against another bubble team, like in conference, to try to jockey that position on creating a better resume. Whereas, you have to look at the ratings, but sometimes just based on a rivalry game, it may not be a top 25 matchup, but when it's a rivalry game, people are tuning in to see, can that rival upset that team that has a shot at playing for a Big 12 championship and be one of those top 2 seeds or one of the top 2 positions. And I think, if this does stay the way when it comes to what the Big Ten and SEC won, those 4 automatic qualifiers and a just watered down product and just SEC and Big Ten shoved down your throat, that's going to be hell for future, talks of media rights deals and the current status of the Big 12 and the ACC. I think, I think the conference's days are numbered. It has to be. It has to be. How do we get to these conferences that are making all this money? So that's why, this is a pretty couple of important weeks for Brett Yormark in the Big 12 but he still has to do what's in the best interest of the Big 12 and, at the very least, get 2 teams into the college football playoff and try to do some damage. I mean, that with as little power as the Big 12 has, you have to have the best interest of the conference, and you got to do what you got to do. But still, I think when it's all said and done, what the SEC and Big Ten is trying to do is completely box out everybody else. And this is their product. This is what they do. They're going to make the money. They control everything. Screw the rest of you. In their eyes, they don't matter. We don't matter when it comes to college football, in my opinion. Okay. We got to take a break. I don't know if I'm sure we got some. I think I addressed one of the. We got some questions on the text line. I did bring. They're about the same things about the Big 12 still making a lot of money off of this. Certainly not as much as the Big 10 and SEC. It's not. To me, it's still about. You kind of lose me a little bit when you start talking dollars and cents. Because to me, college athletics are a lot more to me than that. I'm not a greedy person. But that just goes back to what I had to say about the best interests of the Big 12. Brett Yormark, at the end of the day, has to do what's best for the Big 12. And, I hate to say it right now, it might be just going along with what the SEC and Big 10 have to say, and you still get those 2 automatic qualifiers for the college football playoff. If there is a way to meet in the middle, and that means the SEC and Big 10 get 3 teams and everybody else gets 2, or at least when it comes to the Big 12 and ACC, I would absolutely take it. All right, we got to take a timeout. When we come back, the chances of the K-State women's basketball team, even though they're no longer in first place in the Big 12, still a really solid chance of winning the Big 12. And I'll discuss that path when we come back on The Game.
You're in The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Join your K-State Wildcats in Ireland for the 2025 Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Tickets are available to the public from February 3rd through February 28th only. Don't miss your chance to join the Cats in Dublin. More information can be found at kstatesports.com.
New year, new career. Meadowlark, a local not-for-profit retirement community in Manhattan, Kansas, is hiring passionate individuals like you to join our healthcare team. Discover exciting career options at Meadowlark, where your skills and compassion make a real difference in the lives of our residents. To learn more or apply, visit careers.meadowlark.org or call 785-323-3898. Start your journey with us. New year, new career at Meadowlark.
If Kansas weather has taught us anything, it's to be prepared for everything. It's time to call M&S Plumbing, Heating and Air to make sure your furnace is ready. From full safety inspections to replacing your furnace, M&S Plumbing will keep you and your family warm this winter. If it's been a while since you've had your furnace serviced and inspected, be sure to call and schedule your appointment today. Simple fixes now can save you big money later.
Call the experts who care. M&S Plumbing, Heating and Air.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. Hungry kids get sick more often and can struggle in school. It can be harder for them to focus and learn. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures.
We want to ensure that all of our kids have healthy meals every day.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping feed our kids.
To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
The Ramsey Show.
Up to 50% of American families are paying their adult children's bills to an average of $1,482 a month. Wow. I've never seen it like this. 25% of millennials, their parents are paying their house payment, their rent, or they're living in their basement. You pay your kids' bills. Psychologists call that enabling. As a matter of fact, enabling is quite the opposite of loving.
Go from paycheck to purpose with The Ramsey Show. Weekdays 10 to 1 on News Radio, KMAN.
I'm Cole Dutchendorf with a game sports update. K-State Baseball's offense was up to the challenge, but the pitching staff was not, as the Wildcats fell to 6th-ranked North Carolina 12-9. The game was the 5th in as many days for the Wildcats, who won just once on their opening weekend. The Cats will head to Arlington, Texas to compete in the Amagi Bank College Baseball Series starting Friday night. The Cats will meet 5th-ranked Arkansas in a rematch of last year's regional semifinals. Michigan and TCU are also in the field, with K-State playing them on consecutive days. Friday's coverage begins at 6:30 on News Radio KMAN. For the second straight season, K-State women's basketball head coach Jeff Mittie has been named as one of the 15 candidates for the 2025 Werner Ladder Naismith Women's Coach of the Year watch list. Mittie is the second K-State women's basketball head coach in the program's 57 seasons of action to earn consideration for Naismith Women's Coach of the Year honors, as Deb Patterson was a 3-time finalist for the honor in 02, 03, and 05. Since making its poll debut on November 20th of 2023, K-State has been ranked for 35 consecutive weeks, the longest streak since 69 straight weeks from 2002 to 2005. The Cleveland Cavaliers have agreed to a 10-day contract with Nacon Tomlin earlier this morning. He's averaging 25 points on 55% shooting in his last 5 games for the Cleveland Charge.
I love the Twitter account, Message Board Geniuses. I don't get on the message boards, but I do love a good freak out. There was a KU fan that got on Jayhawk Slaying. At least I'm guessing this is a KU fan, posing to be one at least. Do we suck because everyone can now legally pay players and we can't cheat? Yes?
Some are wondering.
That's the simple answer, I think. Yeah, some are wondering. That's a good way to put it. Here's KU's biggest issue. I think this is where they messed up. Remember the old Adidas thing, 5 level 1 violations, and they were under investigation by the IARP for like 5 years about this whole thing. Everybody else, guys are going to prison, and all these punishments handed down by the NCAA, but remember, KU self-imposed penalties. I think the problem here is they should have just taken what the punishment was coming, even if it was much more harsh, and just take it, so they had an excuse to suck right now. They don't have an excuse to suck right now. They just suck.
Yeah, because they still got the talent on the roster. They just can't win games.
That's exactly what it is. They should have not done the self-imposed penalties and just take the harsh punishment. And
who knows where they'd be right now?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, who knows? They at least have their excuse, Well, it's because, they're suspended from the postseason for 2 years. That's why they suck. Oh, sure. Okay, moving on. Nope. They get a whole segment. Okay. To K-State women's basketball, it really sucks that they couldn't get that win on Monday. It really does. Because here's the deal. If they would have won that game, I'm probably today saying, guaranteeing K-State wins a Big 12 championship. They have not won since 2008. So it's been 17 years? Holy crap. 17 years since they've won a Big 12 championship. But in my opinion, it's a pretty clear, I don't know how simple I would call it. It's not overcomplicating, but I think it's a good route. And I think it's a very doable route for still needing some help now at this point of K-State women's basketball winning a Big 12 championship. As you may have heard, it's been confirmed, Ayoka Lee makes a return on Saturday against KU, and that game tips off at 4 o'clock. Get your tickets, Bramlage Coliseum, 1-800-221-CATS or kstatesports.com. I took a look at how the GA tickets are sold out. I took a look earlier to see when it comes to the chairbacks, how many are sold. Quite a few. Like, I would hope this game could sell out. I hope it does. You got 3 days. 3 days to go buy your tickets. Let's take a look at the rest of K-State's schedule. Remember, game back. Actually, for right now, they're a half game back because TCU still has to play tonight, and so does Baylor. I'll get to them here in just a second. But K-State with 3 games left, they're going to be hosting KU, should be a slaughter. They're going to be hosting Baylor, who is tied for first place in the Big 12. That's coming up Monday in Bramlage. And then they're at Iowa State on a Sunday on March 2nd. First of all, I'm not a big fan of these Monday Sundays, as in you play Monday and then you don't play again until Sunday. Look, that kind of kills us for content. We got to get too creative, and I like games to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so here's the thing. K-State should be a blowout, or KU should be a blowout, like I said. They've already beaten Iowa State. That was without Lee. Iowa State's having a super down year. The Baylor game is super major. That could just right there take care of the Baylor situation, because you would finish, if you win out, finish no worse than tied for Baylor. Baylor's still on their schedule. They play tonight at Colorado. That's actually pretty interesting because Aaronette Von Lay is a transfer from Baylor. She got NIL'd to the Baylor Bears. And now she's going to have to play her former team and her former coach. And also, I mean, here's still what's on Baylor's schedule. Even Iowa State, K-State, TCU.
That's a rough schedule.
That is a rough one, but here's the deal. There's something very key there. Can TCU lose one game in their Final Four?
They have a tough schedule, too.
They don't play K-State, of course. But like I mentioned, they're going to play Baylor and they're going to play West Virginia. Those 2 games are major. Can they lose one of those games? I think, because I am saying K-State's going to win out. If they can lose one of those games, K-State wins the Big 12. Or they will share, at the worst, share a Big 12 championship, which you absolutely will take. They're going to beat Arizona State tonight. It's the Sun Devils stink. They've lost like 11 in a row. It's not going to happen. Arizona gave up a valiant effort this past weekend to try to beat TCU on their home floor, but it didn't happen. West Virginia is a super interesting game. Very interesting. I think it is a bad matchup for TCU. The only kicker is this is going to be a home game for TCU. Look, West Virginia, if you watch that game on Monday, is a defensive problem for teams. They press. The X factor in this game for TCU will be Sedona Prince. She will be the best player at the 5 of this game. And she'll stretch the floor and all that stuff. She plays all over. I don't know if West Virginia, how well they'll match up against that. Well, when it comes to that press, remember what K-State did to TCU? Forcing 17 turnovers. It was the worst offensive game for TCU this year. Well, West Virginia can do what K-State's going to do and do it better. I don't like TCU's chances. I would pick West Virginia to win that game, and right then and there, K-State is back in, not alone, in the driver's seat to win a Big 12 championship. But let's say West Virginia doesn't get it done. The next game would be a game against Houston, and Houston is trash. So then it would come down to the final game of the regular season. And if K-State were to lose one of these 3 games left, I think K-State's done. Their chances of a Big 12 champion, it gets way too muddy at that point. Now you got Utah, you have Oklahoma State, you have West Virginia in the conversation. It gets way too muddy. It's not going to happen. They got to win out.
Especially if the loss would be against Baylor.
Yeah. So what that would mean is the Big 12 championship would come down to Baylor and TCU. Winner wins the Big 12 outright, most likely. But you hope TCU would fall to West Virginia. If they don't, you need Baylor to get it done. That would be a home game for Baylor. Baylor seems like a pretty solid offensive team that's averaging 80 points per game. That would be a hell of a matchup and it's in Waco. So that's where I feel good, is that K-State can win out this schedule. 2 of the 3 games are at home. You've already beaten a down Iowa State team this year. You would hope they could get it done in Ames for the final game of their regular season. You just need TCU to lose 1 game. And they have 2 pretty tough games on their schedule to finish out. K-State has the easiest schedule from here on out when it comes to those 3 contenders.
My question is, and this is, I genuinely have no idea. Say K-State wins out, Baylor wins out minus the K-State game, and TCU wins out minus the Baylor game. Would that give K-State the outright?
No.
Since they've beaten both Baylor and TCU?
No, because, this goes back to the 2012 college, the K-State football winning the Big 12. So technically, K-State football, when they won the Big 12 in 2012, they beat Oklahoma, but since Oklahoma lost just 1 game, they ended up technically sharing the Big 12 championship. I wish it was that simple. There aren't tiebreakers on who hoists the trophy. It's the tiebreaker in football now on who gets to the Big 12 championship game.
Makes sense.
There's no Big 12 championship game. There's just a Big 12 tournament, so there's a share of a championship.
So then would K-State be the 1 seed for Kansas City?
Yes, they would.
Okay.
Yes, they would.
And that would bode well. Maybe you can get a postseason Big 12 championship.
Because K-State only plays TCU and Baylor once.
Right.
And so they would have the tiebreaker for the 1 seed. There you go. Yes. We figured it out.
There we go.
There we go. there's your tiebreaker scenarios as well. So, but I mean, yes, you went out as also that at least would absolutely guarantee you a double bye in the Big 12 tournament.
Right.
You would be the 3 seed if everybody else were just to win out, or maybe not 3 seed, a 2 seed if everybody were to win out, I believe, with the exception of Baylor losing to K-State.
Now, this is not to suggest that K-State would throw a game in the Big 12 tournament. But do you think they'll put all of their eggs into that basket if they don't win a regular season tournament or a championship? Do you think they'll try to win that postseason tournament?
They'll certainly try to win every game they possibly can. I think here's my thought on that. The eggs they're all in on winning this Big 12 regular season championship. With Aoki back, they can still win it. They just need to win out. They need a little bit of help. TCU lose that 1 game, please. And then the Big 12 champions. That's exactly why Aoki wanted to come back in the first place.
Right.
She loves her team and wants to win a Big 12 championship. The Big 12 regular season championship probably means a little bit more than a tournament championship, even though, because they're already an NCAA tournament team. The automatic bid doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, other than, because you're already in the field, besides the guarantee. That regular season championship needs more. I'm not necessarily against it. If K-State were to lose that first game of the Big 12 tournament, despite the double bye, I don't know if my heart is necessarily broken because.
And that's kind of what I was getting at, because then you get to rest up and get to get prepared for hopefully a deep tournament run in March Madness.
Because it's just not as meaningful, just as a fan,
right?
Than a regular season championship is.
Sure.
So, especially if you could potentially wrap it up at home. I don't know if that can happen though. The way I just mapped this out,
it wouldn't be able to happen unless TCU lost.
Yeah,
their
you got
next 2.
Yeah, you got to confirm
which I don't think
it.
is going to happen.
Yeah, you got to confirm it at Ames.
Right.
Yeah, to officially lock it up. So there it is. There's your route for a K-State Big 12 championship. It's not too complicated. Just needs a little bit of help, just a little bit. So you hope you have a meeting with Baylor and say, look, we're going to beat you in Manhattan, but here's the deal. You just have to beat TCU, and you're in the money as well, brothers or sisters. You're good to go. Pretty simple. Let's work together, Bears. Let's get this done. All right, we take a final time out of the show. When we come back, Ask Us Anything's hosted by Cole after these words.
Your home for K-State sports.
In the option spread option set, Doxson is hit by Niall. Wide running, he takes him to the ground at the 25-yard line. It was like Kansas State's rodeo team.
This is The Game on News Radio, KMAN.
Explore the latest in home remodeling, kitchen, and bath renovations, landscaping, and more at the 48th Annual Flint Hills Home Show this weekend. Join us at the National Guard Armory, where a variety of vendors will showcase solutions for all your home improvement needs. Meet industry experts, discover innovative products, and get inspired by stunning displays to help you bring your next project to life. Don't miss the Flint Hills Home Show Saturday, February 22nd from 9 to 5 and Sunday, February 23rd from 11 to 4 at the National Guard Armory at 721 Levy Drive. Admission is $5 for 12 and over. See you there.
American Family Insurance.
At American Family Insurance, your small business is a big deal to us. You face challenges and you work hard to achieve your goals. As your American Family agent and business owner right here in your community, I've faced that too. I've built my business with the vision of helping you protect yours. Contact us today to see how we can protect what you've worked so hard to build with customized coverage that fits your needs. This is Rob Wild, agent at Wild & Associates, LLC.
American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
As the seasons change, our commitment to severe weather doesn't. No matter the time of year, we always keep you informed. Severe storms, flash floods, tornadoes, even blizzards. We track every storm to give you accurate, up-to-date information. We're always watching so you don't have to. News Radio KMAN, your trusted source for severe weather updates. When the storm hits, we've got you covered. Powered by Candlewood Veterinary Clinic, Manhattan Wrecker, Hummel Tree Service, and Tall Grass Windows.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through, or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
The Native community is big for me. Makes me feel good to pass on our Rapo traditions. My kids love going up to the Sundance. I like to tell people the Sundance is about family. It's about the tribe. It's not just about the dancer. It's kind of like life. As a Sundancer, I'm just one spoke in the wheel. I need my family there. I need my role models. I need my people there, especially my children. You know, coming in that door, my family is ready to see me and they believe in me. Before, I'd never seen that from my people. But now when I walk in that door and I see those smiling faces and they're happy to see me, that's special. With my 4 kids, all I ask for them in Arapaho ways is health and happiness. Nothing more, nothing less.
Never stop being a dad. That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Get your morning started with KMAN's Morning News, weekdays at 6.
Thursday morning, we begin to look towards warmer conditions across the region. We'll get the details from Kansas Mesonet meteorologist Chip Redmond, plus all of the news and sports headlines that you need to get your day going.
KMAN's Morning News, weekday mornings, 6 to 9 on News Radio, KMAN.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. Right now, 9 degrees of -4 wind chill and partly cloudy skies. Tonight, mostly clear skies with a low around -12. Tomorrow, sunny skies and a high near 13. Wind chill values between -1 and -11. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy, a low around -2. Friday, we're warming up, a high near 22. Mostly sunny skies. Calm wind becoming southward in the afternoon. All right, Mitch, we're getting Olympic today. Netflix recently released their documentary on the team, the basketball team, men's basketball team from this past summer. Okay. And so feeling a little Olympic today. We're going to go with a 2-parter. What sport that currently is not an Olympic sport should be in the Olympics? And what sport, if there is one, that is currently an Olympic sport should not be in the Olympics.
Okay, so I remember K-Rock had this question. I'm gonna cheat a little bit, give you those answers, but I don't know if I've ever shared them here. But K-Rock had an Ask a K-Rocker during the Summer Olympics about this very thing. So 2 sports come to mind that I would love to see as actual Olympic sports. Dodgeball, if we could channel the dodgeball movie.
Sure.
That would be awesome. And then how about roller derby? You familiar with roller derby?
I know a little bit about it.
I remember Monday Night Raw, after on Spike TV, used to have roller derby on after Monday Night Raw, and it was awesome. It's very cult following type of sport, but so are a lot of these other sports in the Olympics. The sport I would like to take out, believe it or not break dancing or breaking. There's one other I'd like to get out of there before anything else. Surfing. First of all, you're going to have this competition not even where the Olympics are taking place.
Like last year with France.
Yeah, and what if you have a super weak wave, you're not in a good spot to do any surfing, there's no waves coming in. How do you have the competition? How do you grade? How do you judge surfing, I guess they probably already have that figured out, but it just seems like
you're just leaving it up
the
into
logistics
Mother
and
Nature's
stuff.
hands.
Yeah, it's too much Mother Nature, yeah.
Where I'm going to go to add a sport, I don't think it's a sport in the Olympics, it's wiffle ball. Imagine Clayton Kershaw hopping up on that mound and just spinning that wiffle ball in the Olympics for a gold medal on the line. And then the one I'm going to take out is just equestrian. I know it's an old, it's historical. I don't think there's any need for it. It's a horse. Why are horses getting medals now?
Well, that's the thing. It's the person riding the horse that gets the medal.
Right.
The horse should get the medal.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You
give them an apple or something.
You're going to get me in trouble, but yet you are preaching to the choir. I just happen to be dating somebody that used to be on the equestrian team at K-State with a Snyder, and the running joke is that isn't the NCAA athlete, the Division I athlete, the horse on the... Anyway, that's where we're going to wrap it up. We're back for 2 hours tomorrow. I want to thank Cole for his work. If you missed the show, listen to our podcast, newsradiokman.com, or just search for The Game on 1350 K-Man, wherever you listen to your podcasts. For Cole, I'm Mitch. Go Cats.
The 9th Annual Corporate Pinewood Derby returns Saturday, March 8th, 7 p.m. at Max Motors on Highway 24. Remember when you raced the Pinewood Derby? It's a fantastic adult team-building event with a variety of sponsorship availabilities to race. If you want to just join us on the fun, $30 per person or $50 per couple. This includes refreshments and the live and silent auction. Come to the event for racing fun while supporting Scouting America Kansa District. For more information, go to mymhk.com. On the 9th Annual Corporate Pinewood Derby, Saturday, March 8th, 7 p.m. at Max Motors on East Highway 24. Support Scouting America